Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome back to another Northside Baseball video. Brandon and I are back after a brief hiatus, and we are here to talk about some very good news coming back to the Cubs. After many weeks, our favorite pitchers are coming back from the IL. Thank God, thank goodness. One of our favorites, our boy Shota Imanaga, is back. Porter Hodge is back, and we're here to talk about it. Brandon, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Shota Imanaga's return is sort of the blockbuster headline here. He's the best pitcher on the team, although Matthew Boyd has been giving him a really strong run for his money this year. A lot of credit to Matthew Boyd for the performance he's been giving the Cubs this year. But obviously, if Shota Imanaga is healthy, if he's pitching the way he's been pitching since he joined the Cubs, this is huge. This is bigger than really any other deadline acquisition they could make. Is having a healthy Shota Imanaga. He's such a good pitcher. He's so reliable. He goes deep into games. He can help save the bullpen, which has been pretty good recently. But yeah, I think that obviously they had to DFA Michael Fulmer they had to DFA Michael Fulmer, who it was cool to see him back in a Cubs uniform, but obviously he wasn't going to be long for the team. But overall, the main purpose of this, the importance of this move is that it stabilizes a rotation that I think was really starting to get stretched thin. Obviously, we'll talk about this more in a second, but they optioned Ben Brown back to AAA, which is a big move and a big deal for sort of the his short term future. And just having Imanaga back, especially with Justin Steele out for the season, really helps lengthen the rotation again. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would completely agree. Again, the one thing that I will give the Cubs rotation credit for is that even with Shota and Justin Steele out, I mean, we'll talk about Porter Hodge in a second, but even with two very big, our best starting pitchers out, next to Matthew Boyd, again, give credit where credit is due. Um,
Mhm.
our other starting pitchers really held their own while our pitchers were on the IL. So I'm really impressed by that. I remember when, just about a month ago when these injuries first happened, you and I were kind of in panic mode because the Cubs have been doing so well. And like clockwork, like every season, of course, our pitching staff just, they all just get injured. But unlike last season, this season, the pitchers held their own. And I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I think, again, we talk about it a lot over the offseason when the Cubs made a lot of these depth moves to help in sort of insulate the rotation against injuries like this. Obviously, someone like Javier Assad has also been out for the whole season, and he's sort of up in the air right now. But it is really promising to see the fact that, even without Imanaga out, the Cubs are still winning games, and that, Matthew Boyd's been, a big part of that. Cade Horton has been a big part of that since coming up. Colin Ray and Jamison Tyone have been really solid. So again, I personally still think they really need to make a move at the trade deadline for a starter just to really give them, that extra ace, to work alongside Imanaga and Boyd. But as it stands right now, I think this rotation is good enough to, get them to the postseason for the second half of the year. But another, as we talked about also in these sort of roster shuffling moves, is that Porter Hodge is back as he looks like he's going to be a setup man because it looks like Daniel Palencia is going to be the full-time closer at this point, which is great. And then obviously Ben Brown has been optioned back to AAA after quite a bit of struggles this season. And, we've talked about this in videos. It's been written in a ton of articles here on Northside Baseball, but Ben Brown really needs to figure out a third pitch. He's obviously got a good fastball. He's got a good curveball. His changeup has been a mess. And unless he figures out a third pitch, I personally think it might be time to move him to the bullpen, at least for this season, just to get some contributions out of him because he does have the arm to contribute to this team, just maybe not as a starter. But what are your thoughts sort of on the decision to get Ben Brown more innings at AAA?
Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea, right? Like players have been moved to AAA before, and we saw it last season. I always think that being moved down might look bad for the player per se, and they probably don't feel great about it. At the same time, getting moved back down to the minors is a great way to practice at the end. Like you just said, he needs another pitch in hand. Putting Ben Brown in the majors to learn that third pitch is not a smart move. You don't want him learning while we're going up against like another major league team. That's a recipe for disaster. So the minor
Mhm.
leagues, I think, are his best shot at the moment. At the same time, you and I have been to games where Ben Brown has played. We know he's a great pitcher. Again, I think it's just the fact of he's still young. He's still very new to the team, in the sense of being in the majors, that is, and
Mhm.
he just needs more time to learn.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that. you make a good point where I think the initial reaction to seeing, especially a highly regarded prospect get demoted is, oh, this guy's a bust. Oh, he's not going to live up to the billing, whatever. It's just the case of the Cubs are competitive right now. You know what I mean? Like Shota Imanaga's coming back. The Cubs are in first place in the NL Central. They're fighting for the division title.
We don't
Like
have
you
margin for error.
Exactly. There's no margin for error to let Ben Brown just go out there, and especially when a guy like Cade Horton is pitching better than he is right now. It's just the, matter of fact. So I completely agree with you. I think Ben Brown does have really strong long-term potential, whether it's as a starter or reliever, but he has a lot of long-term potential. And I think that this is a move to sort of salvage his development rather than just continuing to throw him to the wolves and hoping that, he magically figures things out in the middle of a pennant race. So as always, we want to hear you guys' thoughts on the matter. There's been a lot of, shuffling on the pitching staff. It looks like it's for the better. But what do you think about all these moves? Obviously, I imagine most people are happy Shodi Managa's back. But, what are your thoughts on Ben Brown's development? What are your thoughts on Porter Hodge sort of coming back into a setup role? Let us know. And as always, we'll be looking at every comment.